Welcome to Fret Buzz, the podcast. My name is Joe McMurray.
And I am Aaron Sefchick.
And today we have an amazing guitarist. Quist is calling in from Los Angeles, although he's from the Netherlands. Not only is he an incredible guitarist, he's become a YouTube sensation for his jam tracks and his instrumental versions of popular songs. And recently he recorded and toured with Bryan Ferry of Roxy Music, who were recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So welcome, Quist.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, man. It's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. We actually got your information originally from Jens Larsen, who a lot of people have probably heard of. Checked out your stuff, and I was blown away. I think I saw the Bruno Mars video that you did.
Oh,
you're playing your ES335, and you're just ripping on it.
That's a fun track. Yeah, that was a fun track. That's yeah. I don't do those kinds of videos that much, but you know, like when a fun track comes around, and I'm like, I gotta do something on that, then you know, I'm like, okay, let's do that. And then that one's popped out a little bit because I guess some people, you know, enjoy it or whatever.
I think that you looked like you were enjoying it so much while you were recording it that it's infectious.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw that in the comments more than once, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess I mean that's an old truth as a performer, isn't it? Like that, you know, if they can see that you're enjoying it, they're most likely going to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
But I guess that was true in that case. Yeah.
It definitely worked.
Yeah.
It caught my interest in the first, 15 seconds or so, and I was hooked. So yeah, we're glad to have you. And both Aaron and I are guitarists first and foremost. So we're glad to have somebody that we can talk about, guitar specific things with today. And we like to have a broad range of, experts from different musical fields. And sometimes I feel like I'm in class, like learning from someone about building guitars or building, anything, guitar pedals.
That's awesome. That's the awesome thing about the podcast as well, isn't it? Because you can dig deep.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's great if you're out walking the dog or driving to work, you can learn something and better yourself while you're, multitasking.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of slow to the party but it's only in the last year that I've really let the podcast into my life, and now I'm like, anytime there's any, housework or traveling or whatever, I'm right there learning about something or listening to somebody making me smile.
Yeah.
It's podcasting awesome. is growing like wildfire right now.
Yeah, and for good reason. It's a great thing, and like compared to so much other entertainment, it's I mean, I'm sure there's lots of different podcasts, but it seems meaningful. Many podcasts seem like a meaningful way to spend your time. So that's what I like about many of the podcasts that I listen to. You feel like you've not just wasted 2 hours. You've actually gotten something in that might give you some perspective for the future. So yeah, well done to you guys. I listened to some of your podcasts as well, obviously.
Thank you.
It's really, really cool. Really, really good thing you got going.
Cool. I really look forward to every time we do this. I feel like it's one thing to listen to a podcast, but to actually be involved in the conversation and asking questions. I get to hang out with these cool people and ask them whatever I want. It's like, what more could you want?
Yeah.
On a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, right. So I'm curious, where did your journey start, and how did you get into audio?
When you say audio, Aaron?
Yes.
What do you mean audio? Like into making music, or?
Okay, let's even go further back than that. Maybe your first musical instrument, and then, because usually what I'm finding is through all our guests is it does start with some kind of musical interest somewhere along the way, and then just beyond that, they usually realize that audio plays a huge role in their life as well.
Well, music's been kind of a big part of my life the whole time, from kind of various angles. But I mean, the guitar was the first thing that got me hooked. and it's like it's been my main thing the whole time as well.
Yeah.
And that was my dad actually. He had like a beat up acoustic guitar that he was really good at. He can still kind of pull it off, the Bob Dylan kind of finger picking kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so he was doing that, and I was like, what's that? And so that guitar was accessible to me, and I sort of started, to learn and dig into that when I was about 6. So that was the first like musical instrument and like the first entry into that kind of world. And then at the same time I was doing performing. I started as a ballet dancer.
Wow.
I kind of got hooked on the performing aspect of music pretty early on, because my sister was at the Royal Ballet of Denmark, and I sort of saw that from the sideline, and I was like, maybe that's something I want to try. And then I tried to get in, and I got in, and then pretty quickly started to like tour and stuff. And like I danced at the Met, in New York, the Metropolitan, and like some pretty big places, and got a taste for the old being on stage, and that was before I was like 10 years old. So I've kind of been hooked on the performing aspect of music since then. And obviously in ballet it's all about music as well, and so all the music like from like Tchaikovsky and like all these classical composers, that got ingrained in my sort of life pretty early on. So I guess that's I don't know if does that answer any of your question?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think it's a really good foundation in terms of where you've come from. That's great. And then how did it begin to blossom?
Well, when I was about 12 or 13, I'd been learning guitar since I was like 6 or whatever. But then at that point, I decided to dump the ballet thing, and then just become because I'd never gone to like a normal school. So I took leave from the ballet world, and then sort of just dug into playing guitar. Like I became just a total guitar nerd when I was like about 13 and 14, 15, 16. I had a little stopwatch, the one that I had it sitting on my bike, but then I could take it off and carry it with me. And I used to play a minimum of 6 hours every day, but usually 8 or 9 hours.
Yep.
And I just like forced myself to like keep that minimum effort on a daily basis.
Yep.
So I just was a real nerd, but obviously there was some blossoming during that period in terms of capabilities, and
just quickly ask you, what guitar were you playing and what amp were you playing?
I was playing first I was playing like a really Roland. I don't remember it was not a great amp. And then I got a JCM 800 stack actually. When it started to rock a little, and that was fun. But yeah, my first guitar was it was a Fender type. It's called Fender Navigator. ESP Navigator. It was made by ESP in Japan.
Okay.
And it was actually a really good guitar, and I lost it when I was I like got drunk after a session in a studio in London one time, and somebody nicked it or stole it, so that was an omen to not do that kind of thing. So I lost it and like scoured eBay for years after that, but I never found it. But anyways, that was my first guitar. And then the one that I did all the shedding on, or shredding if you like, was a Hamer Chaparral from the States here, like a hand-built Hamer, which I was like, when I bought that one with money I'd saved up from like ballet stuff, I was like, okay, this is the greatest thing ever. Like Floyd Rose, just all the good stuff. So I was in heaven, and I still have that one. I sanded it down to like a wooden finish because it was like turquoise. It was pretty much this color actually. So I I got tired of that after a little while, and then sanded it down in an attempt to be able to use that in like common or in like in now time, basically, with some of the stuff that I do. But then I got away from it because it's I rarely need stuff that kind of shreds as hard as a Hamer Chaparral. So yeah,
that's awesome. I love that you were practicing for 6 hours minimum. Is impressive especially for like a 13-year-old. But what were you practicing in that time period? Did you have like a method? Like, were you breaking your time into different aspects of music? Were you just learning songs? Were you working on technique or music theory or anything in particular?
I definitely broke it into like different things. And also just to go back to what you were saying about it being impressive about the 6 hours and stuff. That's one thing about the ballet world. The discipline is like insane. What you get exposed to in terms of workload as a ballet dancer is pretty insane. So I'll give it up to any ballet dancer from that perspective. So I took a little bit of that with me in terms of like being a slave driver. Like I just really took that kind of work ethic with me. But I did like a combination of practicing scales, obviously, and learning solos. I did a lot of learning stuff from records, like literally records like vinyl. I remember, dropping the needle in the same place again and again, and that kind of thing. I ruined a few vinyl records that way, just like trying to learn, Yngwie Malmsteen or whatever, just listening again and again. And I think, tabs were already starting to come out, obviously a lot, but I kind of stayed away from that for a while, actually, because I kind of felt that there was some value in learning it by ear and stuff like that. So I definitely learned a lot of stuff from by ear, and that stuff is kind of time consuming, but I felt like it was time well spent. And I still feel like for anybody who's learning music and guitar, is like, learning anything by ear is super helpful, because you're like honing so many skills at the same time. Like, it's not just learning somebody's musical ideas, it's also developing your own ear and like overall understanding of stuff. So yeah, I did that, and to be honest, like I started doing the jam tracks thing like really early on, because I made my own jam tracks. Like I would say, like, okay, so we have Ionian mode, we have Dorian mode, we have Phrygian mode. Like I lined all the modes up, and I said, okay, how can I make a progression that, because I was reading up on music theory and stuff like that from various whatever sources I could find, like guitar magazines and whatever. And so I would line up like jam tracks, and I would play just like really rough into like a I don't know if they're called boombox, or like a just like really crude recording situation. And I would just play like 5 minutes with a metronome and a rhythm guitar, and then I would rewind and just solo on top of each mode like that. So I would record like a mode specific progression on rhythm guitar with a metronome, and then rewind and just play, rewind, play, rewind, play ad libitum, just getting to know the modes that way. And that was kind of the foundation for what became my YouTube channel. Like goes way back to me as a teenager, like learning the modes that way. Because I kind of wanted to share that with with other people, because I thought it was a pretty great way to practice. And that was the first things that became big tracks on my YouTube channel, like those jam tracks. So it was quite a full circle kind of situation.
So with these jam tracks for each mode, so say we're in, talking about the parent key of C major, like what types of progressions, for the folks out there that are interested in modes, because I feel like every lead guitarist goes through a period where they like discover that modes exist, and it's like not all just pentatonic boxes, and it's like, I can make all these cool sounds. So like, if somebody wanted to loop their own jam tracks on their looping pedal, what would you something simple to suggest?
So like in a major key, for example, it's like the key is to like take each chord that you have and say like, or let me start a different way. The trick is to make a progression that contains all of the notes of the mode. So, because if you do that, and nothing but those, if you do that, then, you know, it'll sound right when you're playing the mode, and it'll sound wrong when you're not, you know. That's kind of the really basic way. So like in a major scale, you know, if you play the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, you've now stated, so to speak, all of the notes of the major scale. So the trick is to find progressions that kind of cover all the, if not all the notes, then like all the key notes. So even a 1 and a 4 chord, if you play a major chord, a C major to an F major, you know, naturally you're going to want to play a C major scale, even though in those 2 chords you're missing a B natural. So, but your ear probably want to play a major scale anyway. But you could also play a Mixolydian if you wanted to. But like, say you wanted to do a Mixolydian progression, if you had C major and you played a B flat major, it's kind of like you're stating all the very obvious notes in a Mixolydian progression. So yeah, that's the trick, you know, to make progressions that contain the like key notes and that make it like sound very much within that mode, so that you are like, okay, you can hear when you're stepping out of the mode, and you can hear when it's just right. It's to do with like the 1, 4, 5 chords. So when I said, you know, B flat or C to go into a B flat, it's like, well, C Mixolydian. If you look at the parent key of C Mixolydian, Mixolydian is the 5th mode. So the parent key would be F, because if you know, F major, if you walk up an F major scale, the 5th note you're going to get is C. So that would be, so C Mixolydian stems from F major. And if you think what's the 4 and then what's the 5 chord of F major, well, it's B flat and C. So by playing those 2 and being in C Mixolydian, you know, you're covering most of the bases. So it's really, you know, if you seek out the 4 and the 5 chord of the parent key of whatever mode you're trying to play in, then you will have covered in many cases a lot of the ground.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love getting into that kind of stuff, and I think as a lead guitarist, knowing how to approach a certain chord progression is half the battle. I mean, it's as important and more important than what your fingers can actually do technically.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at a song, I love starting with my students with the blues,
Right.
because you just have so many options and you have a lot of time over each chord. So like while you're playing over that 1 chord, like, you know, say you're playing the blues in C, you can play the C major pentatonic, the C Mixolydian scale. You have a lot of options, or you can get that, you know, you can have them play C minor pentatonic or throw in the flat 5 to get that bluesy sound.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the 4 chord, you really have to, you can't, because of the F dominant 7 has the E flat in it. You definitely don't want them to play the C major or Mixolydian scale, because that E natural sounds horrible.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can have somebody playing a really slow solo and just play the right notes, and it's very effective. I think knowing your modes gives you a lot of opportunities to make interesting sounds.
Yeah.
Like very colorful.
Yeah.
Sounds.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's also kind of knowing when to think modally and when to think otherwise, because like you say with the blues, sometimes you can play, you know, you can play the minor pentatonic when it's maybe technically not right or whatever, but it still sounds great. And like, so I think the thing with modes is to know when to go down that road and when to think in a different way. That's more to do with overall vibe. Like I think maybe the modes get a bad rep sometimes because I don't know, some people maybe just think of them as kind of you know, it's a very specific vibe and like and something like shreddy, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think of it shreddy.
Well, it depends on how you approach them.
That's true.
It's the artist behind the mode and what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, just different genres treat them different ways. But just knowing your modes and the importance of them, just, you know, I always tell my students when I bring up the concept of modes, something like the Simpsons theme song and something like Jaws, and how that mode creates a specific emotion and feel. It's not just sad and happy. There's more to it because there's varying versions of sad and happy.
It's like a grayscale.
Yeah. So modes really are a way for, as a composer would kind of be able to take the listener on a journey through emotions. And that's kind of how you look at modes. And modes aren't like strict. You can bend them a little bit. And like you were kind of saying, is the overall emotion, the overall kind of feel of what's going on within the piece, and being able to say, okay, a mode would be appropriate here, but then knowing all at the same time to be able to go outside of the lines a little bit and play a little bit and make it a little bit more colorful.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree with you more. Like it's the modes are amazing for being able to conjure up like certain emotions just on command like that. You know, if you know your modes, like not as a soloist so much, but as I mean also as a soloist, but like as somebody who makes music, or somebody who composes, or has to, you know, or wants to create a certain emotion at any time. Like the modes are like amazing for that, because they can just on command create a certain type of vibe and a certain type of emotion. So yeah.
I always immediately have, when I'm going through this with my students for the first time, I will put on Joe Satriani's Flying in a Blue Dream to explain the Lydian, get them to hear the sound of the Lydian mode. And everyone's like, that is such a cool sound. Like, isn't it? It's like one of my favorite sounds.
Yeah.
So,
He's
so good.
He's pretty famous for that one. He's done well in terms of, I mean, that's, well, him and Vai, I guess. They've done well, and I guess Zappa is another one that gets mentioned.
Oh my gosh!
In that context, those three is always, you know, I've put out quite a few Lydian mode jams. I just recently actually I put out a tab of a solo that I did on a Lydian mode jam because it was getting popular, so I thought, okay, I'm going to put that up. But like, you know, it's fun to see how like those three are the main people that anybody will associate whenever you put anything out that's to do with anything Lydian. People are it's either Satriani, Vai, or Zappa that gets the mention, because they've just like owned those sounds to many people anyway.
At least in the rock world, you know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. There's a whole other aspect, but yeah, in the rock world, they're kings of Lydian.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, back to your shedding for 6 to 9 hours a day as a teenager. So when did you decide that you wanted to go to music school, and then what did you go to music school for, and where, and tell us all about it.
Well, when I was 16, I wanted to go to Musicians Institute in Los Angeles, because it seemed like the right thing, because I was kind of a shredder, and you know, was reading the kind of guitar magazines that they would run ads in and whatnot. So I was going to do that, but I then decided to finish high school in Denmark, which runs until you're like 19. So I decided to do that first. And then in the meantime, after I finished high school, I found out that there was a Musicians Institute in London, in the UK. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll actually try that one. It was a little closer, and I was moving away from my, out of my parents' place and whatnot. So I was like, maybe I'll move to London. So yeah, that's what I did, and went there for a year. And then it changed its name and owners, and like somebody ran away with a lot of money, and it was it was a pretty messy school. some stuff happened. Yeah. Like, I don't know. You've probably been in the context of music schools, and not always is everything as organized as it seems to the students.
Right.
So yeah, so some stuff happened, and then one of the teachers was a teacher at the Royal Academy of Music in London, who they have a jazz course. One of the most famous recent students of which is Jacob Collier, the guy that just won. He won 2 Grammys for his arrangements.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's pretty cool too. But he went to that course. So that was the same course that this teacher, who actually was literally his whole vibe was the kind of arrangement madness that Jacob Collier is now known for, which is quite funny because he was literally, that was his vibe. He was always trying to make us do like the most outrageous, deep, like just really, you know what I'm trying to say, like, just as many notes as you could possibly cram into a melody. And it was interesting. His name is Ed Spade, really amazing dude. He was a guitarist. So anyway, he suggested that I try and get into that to Royal Academy of Music for the jazz course, and I didn't have a lot of money, but they gave me a scholarship and stuff, so I was able to do that. And then I did that for 4 years. But yeah, I kind of nearly stopped doing it actually halfway through, because I made a record. The first record I made was with Sony Music in Denmark. Got signed with a project there and was like a MD on this project, and it went pretty well. And we worked with one of the biggest like rock producers in Denmark. So I kind of got a taste for something else than jazz, pretty much almost as soon as I started that course. So I was kind of like veered off in a different direction straight away. But I decided to finish it after all, even though, like I said, I nearly dropped out halfway through. And then, yeah, after 4 years, I'd sort of made, some network and stuff in London. So I just kind of stayed on there, and worked on a lot of music, and then a little further down the line started doing a lot of touring. And then I started touring with some American artists, and then that's when somebody said, well, you should come to America, and you might like it. And I was like, well, I was gonna come to America when I was 16 years old. So, and I sort of remembered that that was actually what I really wanted to do. And I love British culture, and like I've been in British culture for a long time, and in some ways I feel more British than I do Danish by now, because I had so many formative years in Britain. Like I never lived in Denmark as a young adult, like on my own. I moved straight away to England. So I have a lot of passion for that culture, but I always thought that I might feel at home in American culture as a musician, like because of like what I've spent time doing and what I love and stuff like that. And I was not wrong. I love like being in America. Now I've been here for like almost 5 years, and I have no intention of leaving unless I get told to. So it was pretty awesome that it kind of worked out. Yeah.
And you're in LA now, right?
I'm in LA. Yeah, I nearly moved to New York. Like I went to New York. I've been to New York many times, but like I went, and really went and jammed at all the jams, like all the jazzy jams, and like really, looked at it and thought, is this it's what I want to do. But having lived in London for a long time, I kind of I thought it would also be cool to have like a a proper lifestyle change. So, you know, get a bit more sun and like summer vibes, and like, because, you know, London, I mean, they're obviously two amazing cities, but London and New York are similar in the way that you know, you pay a lot of money for you know, not a lot of real estate, and like and it's kind of, you know, dirty and in LA, you know, you can there's a little more, you get exposed to a little more nature and a little more sun, and I was like, maybe I want to do that.
Can I ask you, do you notice a difference between the music between the West Coast and the East Coast?
Well, yeah. I mean that, and that was part of my decision making as well. But like, I mean, as a jazzer, as somebody who, you know, if you are somebody who is like a straight up jazzer, you haven't got much to do here in LA. You know, you're better off in New York, I would say. You know, there's a lot more of a scene for that kind of thing. As a session musician, and like somebody, if you want to play with like major artists and stuff like that, I think this is a pretty great place to be. LA, you know, there's a pretty strong session scene, and obviously if you're a rocker as well, I mean, LA is pretty amazing. I've met many great rockers since coming here, and like the LA rock scene was kind of the first scene that I got I don't want to say accepted into, but that some of the doors opened to. Like, I met some of the sort of rock scene dudes, and I invited them to come see me when, like, we were playing with Bryan Ferry. Like, I think in the first like 3 or 4 years of living there, I played like 3 shows with Bryan Ferry. The last one was at the Hollywood Bowl, with the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra and stuff. So it was pretty big, and I think I played like 17 guitar solos or something. It was a good business card or whatever. So right. I invited all these cats from the rock scene and whatnot down to see me play on, you know, whenever I could for those types of shows. So that kind of, I mean, I know it sounds pretty calculating and whatnot, but that opened a few doors, you know, in terms of meeting people and getting invited to things and whatnot. So the rock scene is, and I'm amazed at how, you know, it's like there's so many people that are, it's a very alive scene. It's definitely happens, the rock scene still. There's this jam at the Whiskey A Go-Go that's been going for quite a few years now, where everybody like come and shop their stuff every Tuesday.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. You know,
you just put your name on a list to get up and play.
No, it's like they you have to kind of get invited or whatever. Like, it's a little bit inclusive, like in terms of they like to, it's kind of, I don't know how to say this in a good way, but it's kind of like, you know, you get on stage and they go, oh, this is such and such from this and that band, and I think that's part of the kick as well for everybody that does it, but also for the audience, that they can see like the bass player of White Snake jamming with the lead guitarist of Bryan Ferry or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of so they tend to kind of you know, pick people that have some kind of credits to the name or whatever, and so it's a little bit elitist like that maybe, but they also have, you know, other people that are just, you know, talented and that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, it's a very rock kind of scenario, and I have a, you know, I do a lot of more jazzy kind of stuff, so I don't feel 100% at home in that kind of context, I have to be honest, you know. But but like I said, that was like the first scene that I sort of entered when I first came to LA, and so I just rolled with it. Right. And it's lovely.
Do you find that, like, when you're hanging out with people, are there a lot of people that are making it as full-time musicians, or most of your friends in the music world also working other jobs to get by?
Most of the people that I work with are full-time musicians, but I am starting to discover a pretty big number of musicians that are that have like other stuff. Like I was playing with this guy recently who's the drummer in a pretty big rock band. I don't want to mention it, but he's a great drummer and like plays in a band that has a real name, but he's like got this construction business on the side where like he's met all these people in the music business, and now he's like got this business where he builds people's houses on the side, you know, like because he knows all these people anyway from the music business, and so I'm like, oh, okay, you're a contractor as well as a drummer. That's interesting. And I guess I've seen that more and more actually over here, where I guess that, you know, at some point people get tired of you know, a certain amount of struggle or whatever. If there's not enough like gigs or not enough, you know, if it's too much up and down, that gets stressful over an amount of years. You know, I can testify to that myself. You know, it's that's a stressful situation. So if you can get rid of that stress by having some kind of totally constant income source on the side, then I guess that's, you know, that's definitely something to think about for health and peace of mind, you know. And yeah, so I'm definitely starting to realize that that's the case for quite a few musicians over here, and also some that you don't expect, like I say, where you're like, oh, that's like such and such who played with such and such, and but he's like got a construction business. Okay, interesting.
So I'm very much, I mean, I'm still relatively new being full-time. I think I quit my job in 2014.
Wow.
So I've been full-time music since then. And I don't think, at least at this point in my life, I couldn't, if I had another job, I wouldn't be able to spend enough time practicing and preparing for different types of gigs as a musician. And like even just preparing for my students' lessons, like sometimes somebody wants to learn something that I need to spend some time on preparing, or I need to, you know, oh, here's an offer to play this gig where they want this type of music, you know, they want St. Patrick's Day music, and we're gonna pay you for that. So I need the time during the day
so much preparation
to prepare.
time.
Yeah. And if I didn't have that time, I wouldn't be able to take the gig. And it's just like, it's all a snowball. If you're available to take any gig that's thrown at you, then you can and you have the time to prepare for those, you can make it. But at least in where I am.
Yeah. Where are you guys?
Well, we're actually in different places. I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Right.
And I'm in Northern Virginia.
Right.
And I used to live up in Northern Virginia, and that's how Aaron and I got to know each other. We were both working together.
Right.
And we had a band. We had a band called the Kairos Quintet.
The what, sorry?
The Kairos Quintet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we played a bunch of original music. It was fun. But yeah, so what,
like KAIROS?
Yes. I don't know that I think our website, we let the domain die. It's been a while now.
Yeah, I'm sure you could search it. It's out there somewhere.
But the thing is, I know of a Kairos, even or either quintet or quartet but I felt like they were from England. But it may have been you guys. I've definitely seen that name before.
In all likelihood, due to our schedules,
so.
it would be awesome if it was us. We wrote some great music. I think we wrote and recorded some great stuff, but we didn't have our lives were pulling in different directions, like amongst the whole band, and we weren't able to get out there and perform enough and tour and promote that music.
Yeah.
We're more of a recording for the sake of recording band.
In quick, it was me taking advantage of musicians that I knew were talented around me and put together a band real quick and write some original stuff that we may have had on our own, or collaborate together and come together for a period of time and just have a lot of fun. Really
awesome.
Yeah.
And you didn't take advantage of us. You took advantage of the fact that we were there in order for us all to mutually benefit.
Yes, it was not like my vision and this is my band. It was more along the lines of let's do something collaboratively and enjoy this as a whole. That was my vision.
But that's awesome. Yeah. I think that kind of scenario is literally medicine to me. Like, you know, playing and creating with other people is like the best thing I can think of.
I'm getting goosebumps right now.
I felt the rush as well right there, literally just thinking about that, because it's like it's the best freaking thing, you know. It's literally medicine to me. It's
especially powerful when you've written something and you're going into this collaboration with the open mind of like, I'm going to take other people's suggestions, and somebody throws some idea out there for your song that you never would have thought of, like just from a totally different angle, and you're like, that's awesome. Collaboration is sometimes sometimes you can shy away from it because of complications with like songwriting, who owns the rights to songs and everything, and you just don't want to have to deal with paying people and whatever, but the finished product is often far superior.
And it kind of lends itself very nicely into this idea of improv, like when you are playing and being able to pass it off to the next guy, and you have this kind of speak that's going on between the band. It's very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you seek that out sometimes at present, or is it? How do you feel about it now?
Good, Aaron.
In terms of putting a band together.
Or in terms of putting yourself in that situation, however you can, like of sometimes, you know, or even just playing with people, creating, you know, not necessarily creating, but like being creative, playing with people.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, not. I'll say it, to be quite honest with you, not so much anymore because I've recently had children. Not recently, but my oldest is 5 years old, so they kind of took over, and I was of the mindset, okay, I'm going to be with my kids for the first couple of years and just raise them right. But previous to this, very much so. Anytime there was an opportunity throughout my entire life that I had a chance to be able to play with somebody and create something out of nothing, that was always me as a kid. Like you were talking before about how you were 13 years old and playing for 6-8 hours a day. I'm right there with you. I'm connecting with you the entire time. That was me as a young kid, going to all the record stores and all the music stores and putting up those pieces of paper and take a ticket and call me because I want to play with you. And I would just do that all the time because it wasn't like I just enjoyed playing with as many people as I could get to play with. I liked that collaboration. I liked the prospect of actually creating a band and rocking out. That was very much me. I mean, you're talking about the magazines and that's just very much.
That's awesome.
And so I'm in a very weird spot in my life now. I was, when I was in Northern Virginia and when I was studying music at George Mason, at one point for a lot of that period, I was in 3 bands doing mostly original music in all of them and playing all these gigs that were incredibly fun but not profitable at all.
Right.
I mean, really losing money on overall. By the time you play a gig where you might, if the band's getting paid, a couple $100 and you've got 4 of you, that's $50 each. But then like one of my bands, I think a couple actually, we'd take 50% of the band earnings would go to the band account to pay for studio stuff, equipment, maintenance, whatever. So maybe you're taking home 25, but then maybe you had a beer and like so maybe you brought home $20, but you had to pay for parking. And you also rehearsed one night that week for that and your entire evening that night. So like 10 hours of effort and you made $20. It just wasn't profitable. Yeah. So when I came to Virginia Beach, I was looking for bands because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And I started making money playing solo, and I've had a hard time. Like I miss the band connections and that excitement. Mm-hmm. But I've only played with bands a couple times here when I've been like paid to play like, come sit in with us. We need a guitarist for the night. We'll pay you. Just show, learn the song, show up and play, kind of thing. It's hard to imagine spending. I can't make enough money doing it right now, unless you made that your thing and you played the big, like, at least around here, like if you're in a big local cover band or tribute band playing big
that's what I was just going to
events.
say. I think it depends on your locale. You're in Virginia Beach. Now, if you were in LA playing with a band, I think it'd be just a little bit of a different story.
But so Virginia Beach is very much a get paid to play location,
Right.
There's just built-in crowd. I mean, on Thursday for 4th of July, I was playing on the oceanfront street, and like there were tens of thousands of people walking around, and I was, on this little tiny stage, like, playing my heart out. But
that's awesome.
We've had a lot of guests who have been in scenes like New York or Nashville and other places where the circumstances are the opposite, where there's lots of musicians and not so much of a built-in crowd.
Right.
It is LA the type of place where, as a musician, you can just like go in, clubs will pay you to play, or is it based on ticket sales? How does it work out there?
Yeah, both of those are definitely there. I have a lot of friends that will go out and do big time like session gigs, but then they also have these little comfortable bar gigs that they do every single week. Like I've noticed that that's definitely a thing that a lot of the musicians over here do. Like they have these fairly comfortable what's it called when you go and play there again and again?
A residency.
Yeah, residency. Yeah, thank you. They have all these residencies happening, and they get paid for it. Yeah, not always. I think will there be loads of people? I'm not sure, but I mean it's a bar situation, so there's obviously folks there and that kind of thing. Personally, I don't really seek out that kind of thing, so
right.
So yeah, I don't have that much hands-on experience with that kind of thing, but
do you notice, if I could interject real quick, do you notice in terms of like we're talking about bands, but then we're also talking about this idea of a solo person like Joe, almost like a singer-songwriter type of thing. Is there more of a demand one way that you see towards bands or singer-songwriter, or?
I mean, I know people that are, I know both types, I know a guitarist that goes out and does a lot of solo shows. He knows a million songs and has great arrangements and whatnot. I mean, I have actually I've done some, in the last few years, I've done a few like, well-paid like solo type of things. Where I say well-paid, not to brag, but to say that I did them, kind of more for the money, basically.
Right. No, understandably so.
Just like money gigs, basically. And so those definitely happen. That people will want a guy in the corner to play some nice music, and then they'll pay well for that. Yeah. Those definitely happen, and but yeah, the band scene, there's tons of bands. Like 3 days ago, somebody called me up to ask, because I'm touring slightly less right now than I have been and previously. I'm focusing a lot on creating and making music right now. So he called me up and said, well, now that you're not touring, do you want to join this band that goes out and does all these gigs, and I, to make a long story short, I said no, because it's not really my scene to play like like covers and stuff like that.
Right.
That's not my gig. But there are a lot of people doing that, and a lot of people do pretty great from it. Like I have a friend who goes down and plays at Disneyland like twice a week or something like that, and they make good money from that.
Right.
Is he playing in like a like they do that at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia, where they actually have like written out, like people have their charts in front of them, and they're like wearing costumes, and it's part of they're paid as park employees, but it's like a major part of the park is professional music, like orchestral almost.
Right.
Is that what they have at Disneyland?
I guess I haven't been as much as I probably should have. So I'm not entirely sure.
So surprise your kids with they say it's for the kids, but really it's for maybe for you too.
Yeah. No, I should actually explore it more. I have not been really down there all that much. So I've been to Anaheim, obviously, to NAMM so many times, and I always see it and go, I should check this out. But yeah.
I'd love to go to NAMM. We've talked about that, like Aaron and I trying to get to NAMM.
Yeah, we definitely need to.
Yeah,
Anaheim's far. Yeah, that would be great to meet you guys that way at NAMM. That's a good forum, and you could meet a lot of potential guests as well. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's obvious, but it's one of the great things about NAMM. Obviously, is that everybody is there. It's everybody within this field of ours. Have you ever considered Summer NAMM or?
Oh yes,
that's the one in Nashville.
Yeah, it's pretty soon as well, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scheduling is difficult. We're gonna make this happen sometime.
Yeah.
But this year's brutal.
NAMM 2020, not a bad idea, Joe. And that is where we're going to leave it for today. I can't tell you how much fun I've had with this conversation. What a good time. And I can't wait for you to hear next week. It's awesome. What a good guest. I definitely suggest that you go and check out his YouTube channel. As Joe was talking about at the beginning, the Bruno Mars one is quite enjoyable to watch. So by all means, check out quistorama.com and enjoy all that he has for your pleasure. Yeah, great guest. Can't wait for you to hear part 2 next Thursday. In addition, hey, by all means, if you're enjoying all of the material from Fretbuzz the podcast, man, we've covered a lot of stuff. By all means, jump on over to iTunes, do all the usual, give us a review, and more importantly, when you get the chance, reach out to me at aaron@fretbuzzthepodcast.com. I know you're listening, and I thank you so very much. I'd love to be able to put a name and a face with who you are. Send me your questions, send me comments. I'm really interested in the fuzzier kind of concepts for people, things that maybe are a little unclear, whether that's, recording, tone, amplification, how things work. Maybe that's finding jobs or school questions or certain professionals within the musical field, anything, things that you guys have questions on. Maybe it's a technique or theory questions. Send them my way, and I'd love to be able to dig into them with you. That'd be great. So Aaron@fretbuzzthepodcast.com. And with that, I think that's where I'm going to stop. So join me next Thursday for part 2 with Quist as we jump into more of an amazing conversation on Fretbuzz, the podcast.